Why are we so quick to judge ourselves? To believe, not to think, to believe that we can't do something, that something's not in the cards for us. It's kind of interesting because for the vast majority of us, we would never speak to a friend that way. We would give them hope. We would be positive. Hell, I think more oftentimes than not, we wouldn't even do that to a stranger. But yet ourselves, a relationship that you're going to have literally to the day you die, we're so quick to judge ourselves, to say to ourselves, you can't do something. It's not for you. It's not in the cards. It's not meant to be. If you're anything like me, I guarantee you've done that to yourself. I know I have. It's something that I sometimes have done to myself a lot in the past, and I've really worked hard to kind of overcome that, to challenge that belief, that conception that I have, and to find out, is it based in something or not? And I think more oftentimes than not, a lot of that is fear that we just don't want to acknowledge. But you sometimes have to have the courage to go through. Let me give you an example. It might make a little more sense. When I first got into college, one of the things that I had always wanted to do was get into the creative writing program. I always really enjoyed reading about fantasy books or sci-fi books. And to me, somebody who kind of had a big active imagination, it was something that I always wanted to do. Something that I felt I would be good at. And I had, a couple ideas that I thought were special. But so finally I got into the Intro to Creative Writing class. And the way that it works to get into the program, you have to have a B or better. And I thought, I'm ready for this. I can do this. I know I got this. So we had to write this short story. And I thought to myself, I have a really good kind of ghost story that I want to work on. So I got to writing it, wrote it down, so proud of it, put all the detail in that I thought that needed. I even had real places and people in it that I thought would really give it life and make everyone kind of feel, this is a really good story. I turned it in. I think I'm going to do great. And lo and behold, let me tell you something. I didn't. I, like the fool I was at the time, didn't really edit my work. I just thought it was good as it is, that I should skate by on that, and I'll hand it in. And imagine my surprise when I was crushed when I didn't get a good grade and I didn't get into the program. Now, I did not believe at the time it was my own fault. I just believed, it's not meant for me. And I carried that belief for over 10 years. I carried that belief in law school, where, as you would imagine, you write quite a bit. And I carried that belief for the first, I'd say 8 to 10 years of my law practice, where I would do everything and anything to get out of writing anything. I would try to focus more on my ability to speak to people, to work things out, to work on my strengths. And while that can get you to a certain degree, it's not going to get you all the way there. And at some point, I realized maybe I'm a really bad writer. And I believe that. The funny thing is, it wasn't until my job that I'm at currently, where I didn't have that ability to hide from it, to run away. And luckily enough for me, I had a boss who really pushed me when it came to that. Challenged me. Read it, reread it, rewrite it, write it again. Do whatever it takes to get it right. It doesn't matter how long, but do it the right way. And lo and behold, after about 2 years of writing and rewriting and learning how to edit a little bit better here and a little bit better there, over some time I became a halfway decent writer. Now, I'm not a great writer. I don't know if I'll ever be. But I can tell you this, if you don't have the courage to even try, and it's not so much the courage to try, it's the courage to try knowing that you will probably fail the first few times and get better. And I was guilty of that. I didn't want to fail. I don't think anyone really wants to fail. But you have to have the courage to keep going, the courage to persevere, the courage to say, you know what, I'm going to challenge that belief that I have for myself, that self-limiting belief that I can't do something, and see if maybe I can. I know for me, what I found over time was those muscles in terms of writing, because I think everything, especially that you're working on, is in its own form a muscle, can grow over time. Now, does that mean I'm ready to write some sort of fantasy epic? No, definitely not. But I do realize that my perception of it was wrong and that I had to have the courage to keep going. The other part of it that really rang home for me and how foolish I was I was listening to one of my favorite authors, Brandon Sanderson, talk about his writing method. And he said that 30% of his time he spends on editing. 30%. If he, an unbelievably accomplished author, spending 30%, then maybe I needed to take a different perspective. And perhaps you do too on that thing that you don't think that you're good at, that maybe you want to do, that you feel that tugging somewhere deep in your soul to try it, but the first time you tried it didn't work out. Second time, people laughed at you. But you have to have the courage to keep going. Because what belief holds you back on something that's important to you? Are you willing to have enough courage to challenge it? Because you should. I will say this, in challenging that belief for myself, I have not necessarily grown to love writing, but I do enjoy doing it a lot more than I ever did before. And you may too. Give it a try. Have the courage to try. Have the courage to fail so you can succeed.